Stroke. I am your host, stroke survivor Jerry Wall. And for those of you that are new viewers here, just to let you know, I started doing this show a while ago just to spread awareness about stroke, TBI, aphasia, brain injury in a nutshell, but also to provide a platform for all survivors to share their journeys, their stories from all across the world, as well as experts in brain health. So today, my guest is, well, two guests. Debra Meyerson, not only an author of Identity Theft, Rediscovering Ourselves After Stroke, as well as a co-founder with Steve, her husband, Stroke Onward. It's a great nonprofit, and I'll put up some tags so you can subscribe and look at the nonprofit. But anyway, and also Flannery O'Neill. She is actually the executive director of Stroke Onward. And both of them had strokes. I'm sure you probably, have seen them around in the world of stroke. But anyway, why don't we get started and also ask questions. Ask questions and please make comments and let us know where you're from. And we'll go ahead and get started. So, hang on. Taking a chance. All righty, and good morning. I look at all the guests out there, so I love that making comments. So let's bring on Debra Meyerson and Flannery O'Neill.
Thank you.
How are you both?
Really good.
Great to see you, and thank you everybody making comments, and I appreciate it. And nice to see you all. It really means a lot. So ask questions. So we could start with either of you. Debra Meyerson, co-founder of Stroke Onward, and we've talked probably more than a year ago. That was probably it. So I know about you as far as your prior history before your stroke. So perhaps you can tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, I am I previously are the Stanford University Education and Business School. Previously, I am a tenured professor, and I had a stroke, and I 10 years ago.
Exactly. Dr. Meyerson.
Yeah.
Yes. And then Flannery also had a stroke.
I did. I had a stroke in February 2017. And before my stroke, I was working in a local public health agency in a small town in Mountainy, Colorado. So I had my stroke. And went to my small local hospital, and then had to then be transferred to a much larger facility for some ongoing care. Right.
And you said your doctor, or they discharged you after your TIA.
Well, yes. So I had a TIA before I had my stroke, and I was actually at a doctor's office, had my TIA, and they just let me go home. They didn't send me to the hospital. Didn't call 911, just sent me home, said, oh, it must have just been kind of a tough day today. And I got in my car and drove home. Fortunately, it was not very far. It was only maybe a 5-minute drive, but I knew something was wrong, and I had been feeling not right for a couple of weeks before I ended up having my stroke.
Wow. How old were you when you had your stroke, Flannery?
I was 34.
Right. Wow.
Yeah, it's really... it's really, I am 53, and I had a stroke.
Wow. Yeah. Mine. I think ours were about the similar times. Mine coming up on 11 years, and October.
Yeah.
And and I'm 60 right now. So
Yeah. Yeah.
similar type
Yeah.
situations. How do you handle either one? Because like we talked about this earlier, which is to me the biggest thing is about the emotional part of this journey that we're going through. People see us all normal, looking, but they don't know how jumbled up, the emotional part.
Flannery, I'd like you to take that.
Sure. Yeah. And I see a comment too. Somebody said, I thought 43 was young. So probably when they had their stroke, me too. At 34, I remember being in the ICU and I had aphasia, but a lot of my aphasia had to do with numbers as well as words. And so trying to understand in my head, okay, what happened? Why am I in the ICU? And so I spent like a long time thinking about it, and I was like, I know what it is. I'm 75, and that's why this has happened.
Yeah.
And then I said that out loud, and they're like, no, you're not 75. And so, trying to understand, to your point, what happened and what does this mean? I remember being very early on in my stroke and just wanting to know, well, what does this mean for the rest of my life? We have all these expectations and these hopes and these dreams, and in an instant, everything gets changed for us.
Mm-hmm.
And really grateful to Debra for the effort that she put in to write the book Identity Theft, to really put to words or put to print the emotional journey after stroke and what ways that we can rebuild our identity, because it can have such a devastating impact on the identity of the person who had the stroke, and also the people that are around them, their family, their friends, their colleagues. So what we're trying to do at our organization, Stroke Onward, and I'm the executive director, and Debra is co-founder with her husband, Steve. We are really trying to just normalize talking about our emotional health after stroke, because our emotional health isn't good, and we're not strong in our identity and happy with our identities, then how can we recover other aspects that might have been impacted by our stroke? And so it's trying to put that final puzzle piece in beyond our speech therapy and our occupational therapy and all of the things that we're doing. We need to care for our mental well-being as well to be able to recover to our greatest capacity.
Yes, I agree. And I am previously, I am the 3 years I have really a lot of therapy, and I had the medical leave is over.
Right.
And I am stuck, and the identity theft is the trying 5 years 5 years the 5 years ago. No, 5 years to write it.
Right. This is I put it up there. Identity Theft. This is a great book. I've read it. I think it was about a year ago. Absolutely great book. And I don't know if you could see it in the bottom. I put it down there on Amazon. If everybody should be get this book. It really is amazing. The stories in here are terrific, and it hits it right on the head. I mean, you don't hold back anything. Yeah, I loved it. Yeah, you did a great job on it. So, I see there was one just like Yvonne Kent Pateris. I see that comment. And by the way, I know Yvonne. She's from Athens, Greece. So thank you for being here.
Oh, yeah,
But stroke affects all members of the family.
yeah.
Yeah. How, does gosh, I don't know, Flannery, but your family situation.
So I'm married. I have my husband, and we don't have any kids, but we just have fur children, so 2 puppies. So I remember when I was having my stroke, my husband was out of town on a ski trip, so way far away. And I had no words, but I remember being really worried about my dog because she was home alone. And because my husband was gone, no one was there to take care of her. So trying to explain without having any words that someone needed to go take care of my dog was one of the first things that I was worried about as I was in the middle of having a stroke. And fortunately, I gestured around enough that somebody knew what I was talking about, and they had to go break into my house and rescue my dog. But so that was a good resolution. But I had very caring colleagues. I was with my boss when I had my stroke, so she was with me in the ER and came with me on my flight for life when we had to be transported across the state. And then my husband was able to come, and my mother. But it's had impact on not just the people that were physically nearby me, but my entire family. Also, because the cause of my stroke we later found out was a genetic blood clotting disorder. And so we have, myself and many people, in my family have now learned that we have this blood clotting disorder. And so hopefully, in terms of preventing future strokes, that, what I've gone through can at least save some of my other family members from going through such a traumatic event.
That's a good point. Just so you know, I do know Mike Peters up there. He always gives me a hard time. He's from South Wales, United Kingdom. He said he thought it was canceled, and anything to get rid of you. That's right, Mike.
Yeah.
No, but Debra, how do you? We can talk about. Do you? Cause this happens to me all the time. Do you ever? And you, Flannery, do you both prepare? Like if, like my wife or daughters, hey, do you want to go down the street or go here? I'm thinking, okay, I got to prepare. There's rocks in the road or all that kind of stuff. I can't just hippity hop like I used to. Well, I can't hop anymore, but.
Yeah. I walk slowly.
Yeah.
Slowly, and I am really careful about walking, and I bike and tandem and skiing.
Yeah, I've seen that. You on your tandem. Steve's in back, and and you're in the front. I have a trike. I couldn't imagine to get that's great what you're doing. That's absolutely amazing. I love it when I see those. And that's a nice bike.
Yeah, and I am going to. Steve and I are going to prepare for the cross country trip in year from now.
Oh wow, how nice!
For 10 months ago, 10 months.
Nice. That's going to be fun. Now, are you still in Lake Tahoe? Are you back?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's beautiful. And Flannery, how do you handle all that?
So I think that's a great question. And for me, I have missing some, my sensation on my right side is not what it used to be. And so I have to be really careful. And I'm sure that, lots of other people have this same issue, but my energy is my big issue. Even today, the fatigue can be really hard for me.
Absolutely.
So I think about activities that I want to do, and I have to look at my whole day. Okay, what are the things that I have to get done? What are the things that I want to get done? And really make sure that I've got enough energy for all of that. Because once I hit that wall, it just
you hit it.
I hit it really hard, and it's frustrating, when you're young and you have a stroke and you're like, okay, I used to be able to do all these things, like be the Energizer Bunny, and I just don't have that anymore. And you can get yourself in a really bad situation. I mean, wanted to do this bike race, and so you have to train and get ready for the bike race. And one day I was out riding, and I was as far as I could be away from home, and realized I don't know that I have the energy if I keep riding on the, I needed to still go a few more miles. And it's like, I don't think I'm going to make it home if I don't turn around right now. And that was just so frustrating. And, and coming to terms with that and being okay with that is still a practice that I'm going through, because you just want to be able to do all the things, and we can't do that, or I can't do that in the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. Debra, you have neuro fatigue too, as well?
What?
Neuro fatigue? Well, you all of a sudden you just get so tired out of the blue.
Yes, I really frustrating and frustrating, and I am nap. I don't have a nap.
Yes.
No, I don't. Not for me.
Wow. Yeah. I totally understand that. That neuro fatigue for me is, I want to go to sleep, but I can't. I could be just lay down for maybe 5 minutes just to get that. Somehow I don't sleep, but just during the day. But then I feel good. There's several times it happens. But so if we talk about Stroke Onward, your nonprofit and what you're doing, because you're obviously, Debra, you're the co-founder with Steve, your husband.
Yeah.
So go ahead with that.
I'd like you to say
Sure.
The Stroke Onward is here.
Yes.
So we talked about, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but what we want to do at Stroke Onward is really support survivors, family members, caregivers, or your care partners with more resources, or any resources, to navigate that emotional journey and to navigate rebuilding your identity so that you can have a rewarding life after your stroke. And like we've talked about, this is just, it's not only you, the survivor, but you, your family, and those people closest to you that are supporting you in your recovery. Everyone's stroke and situation looks different. So how do we support individuals, and how do we support each other as we walk through this journey? And like I said, really thinking about that whole person recovery, so that we're changed after our stroke, right? We've all changed, and we're different. And, and Debra makes a great point with identity. We're always changing. And so what happened with our stroke is it just forced us to change a lot faster.
Yes, absolutely.
And so with Stroke Onward, we want to bring awareness. So doing things like the conversation we're having today, bringing awareness to the emotional journey and to rebuilding identity, and normalizing this conversation, making this part of like our everyday conversation that we're having after our stroke. We want to change the healthcare system. So we want to influence the training programs that our healthcare providers get, so that this is part of what they learn. So this is just like really built into their treatment and their care plans that they make for us. And then we want to create resources. So Debra's book is a wonderful tool to help on this journey, and we're trying to build resources that are companions to the book, and other resources to help us navigate this journey.
Absolutely. There's not enough resources out there, and even for our caregivers.
Exactly.
And that's why this community type stroke is really, we all understand what we're going through. And, you know, I try so hard. I've been married coming up on 38 years, and and still we're talking about, you know, stroke, and sometimes it's a little frustrated, like, I just give up about the, when I'm talking and I'm trying to make sense. And then, what'd you say? I said nothing. It wasn't that important, I guess. So I just leave it at that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, yeah. 'Cause aphasia, that's a tough thing to go through. That's part of it. That's one of the cruelest things on having a stroke.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, I agree. And it's really difficult to say what I say.
Yeah, it's not how see if I can say this right. Not a loss of intellect.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the part that kind of gets me. I mean, I have this bumper style. I'll just send it to you guys. Do you see this at all?
Yeah.
That's
I like that.
what's Dr. Bassard, if you know Tom Bassard.
Yes, yes,
Mhm.
yeah.
He sent me these, but yeah, it's so true. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. But Deborah, you sound terrific, because I haven't talked to you in
Yeah,
a year.
yeah.
So you're still going to
Yeah.
therapy? Is speech therapy still going?
Yes, I have therapy today.
Oh, terrific!
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And once 2 weeks to once a week.
Right. Oh, good for you. And Mike Peters, I see what you said. Yeah, some people think we're retarded or something. You know,
Yeah.
And I agree with Yvonne, to process your thoughts into words. I mean, you know, it's so funny. I use my cell phone all the time and trying to say something. Before I send it, I used to just click and send, and I look what I sent. Oh my gosh, I should have sent that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
yeah, it's tough. So what do you tell people out there in the world that are, I mean, because there's so many people that they just had a stroke, or they're just feeling isolated. Do you ever feel that way? Any of you?
Definitely. Especially, I think I mentioned, but I was in a rural community, small
Yeah.
town. There was about 15,000 people in my town. So I was young. I had a stroke. Never met anybody who had a stroke at this age before,
Right.
and trying to find people who had similar experiences was really hard. And it was about, I think, 6 or 8 months. I don't know why it took me so long to even find Facebook groups, but didn't even think about looking on Facebook for groups. So I hadn't done that. And I realized we needed a stroke support group in my town. And so I went to another support group that was more for just traumatic brain injuries, to learn, you know, what does that look like? And I walked into that room, and I felt such connection and like some kindred spirits there. And so even though it wasn't specific to stroke, people who really understood, you know, what day-to-day life looks like. And so that's what I really find it so helpful is a support group, or, you know, just connecting one-on-one with someone else who has had that same experience. We are, you know, all of our experiences are different, but there's a lot of commonalities. And so it's always helps me when I'm feeling, when I'm struggling with my stroke, is to find some connection that way.
Yeah.
Right. Deborah, do they, when you all the research you've done on your with Stroke Onward and YouTube Flannery, do they because I've been told this all the time about PTSD. Is it part of stroke?
Yeah, I think, you know, that's a great question. So I think there's a lot of, you know, there's a normal grieving process or adjustment process that we go through, and we need support through that. And if we don't get the support that we need, in that time, then certainly we can have PTSD, and we can have depression, and we can have anxiety. And that's where I come from a public health background. So I think, okay, well, if we just get information out there, we're going to prevent a lot of that. We're not going to prevent everything, but that's where my brain really thinks, okay, if we need to be talking about this, talking to one another, and making sure that our healthcare providers are asking us the right questions to get us the care that we need, especially if we have aphasia. How do we make sure that there is access to mental health care for people that have aphasia, and with healthcare providers who understand what aphasia is and how to care for someone with aphasia.
Right.
And the virtual connections is a great group, and it's really the Linggraphica is the I see that Flannery and I have the survivors, the aphasia, and Steve and Flannery is the caregiver, care partners.
Yeah.
And it really great.
Interesting.
Yeah. If you haven't looked up Virtual Connections, they have a great Facebook community, and then also daily sessions for people with aphasia, and also for caregivers and care partners. So that's a great resource for connection. I also lead a young stroke survivors support group. We're actually meeting tonight. And that's folks, I started it when I was living in Colorado. And so some folks from Colorado, but it's really expanded. And so we've got people all across the country, and just to connect with one another and to talk about issues, and things that are going on with our lives. So that connection is so important. And I do want to highlight too, so a little bit further down in the chat box, someone was mentioning sex and intimacy, and that we don't talk about that enough too. And
yes,
I just want to say you're spot on, that Debra does have a chapter on that in her book, talking about intimacy after stroke. But just like mental health, that's another area we just don't talk about enough. And so creating a space for us to talk about that is so important.
Yeah,
absolutely, so true. And I think Mike was the one that mentioned that there. And, Ella, nice to see you here too. You saw Ella here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, and
Yep.
Kimmy Burton.
She's your comment, Ella.
Yes, and Kimmy there, Burton, Colorado. She had a TBI.
Yeah.
Car accident. But so what do we tell people that are feeling isolated, and because they're depressed, and how can we lift them up?
Yeah.
So really, like we said, reaching out for that connection, and then being thinking about the things that bring you, that make you happy. So if and if you worked before and you're not able to work again, let's talk about that. So where did you find the meaning? What gave you meaning when you were in your career, right?
Yes.
And then think about ways that you can find meaning in a different way. I saw somebody talked about planting and how they had planted some stuff, and then that made them pretty exhausted. And for me, I realized in my stroke, I have been able to go back to work, but I spent too much of my, I put so much effort into my work time that I think that was giving me a lot of stress, and that was one of the causes of my stroke. And so I have tried really hard to find some balance and to go to work, but then be done with work for the day and leave it at work, and not carry that over into my home life. And gardening has been something that has been really meaningful for me.
Wow.
And especially, when we're in lockdown, we couldn't really go out a lot of places. And so I started to garden, and it's been really neat to plant something and water it and watch it just take on a life of its own. And so that, for me, I'm not a great artist, so learning some of the artistic things is not a way for me to find meaning so much, but the gardening has been helpful for me. So thinking about ways, what makes you happy and what brings you joy, and it could be volunteering, it could be learning a new hobby, it could be gardening. I mean, there are so many different things that you could do, and really tapping into what is it that brings that meaning for you.
Right. And how about you, Deborah? Your passion probably is Stroke Onward.
Yes.
Biking.
Yes, I bike and kayak, and I have the pedals, the kayak.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
In the kayak.
Yes. Yeah, and Hobie is the Hobie is really the kayak sponsor, and I walk a lot, and yeah.
That's great, because I know there was
I garden.
Wow.
Yeah.
Good for you, because I don't see her, but I don't know if you know Lynette Price out there in the stroke world. Do you ever worry about having it? I mean, does that ever cross your mind? I mean, I don't like to bring it up because I try to keep myself busy, so I don't think about, am I going to have another one?
Yeah.
Does that ever run across you?
Me all the time. Not as much now, but in the beginning, because of the, because of the cause of my stroke, it could happen again because I have a blood clotting disorder, and but I still get so worried about that. And it's finding balance in allowing myself to worry about that, but not letting it take too much time.
Yeah.
And that's where, for me, the support group has been so helpful, because I would talk about that in my support group. And a good friend of mine really helped me start to think of, that might happen in the future. I can't control what's going to happen in the future, but I can control it, and is what's right in front of me right now and how I am today. And so, am I doing all the things that I need to do to prevent another stroke? Getting good sleep, eating well, getting exercise, doing those foundational pieces, taking care of my mental health. And then just really trying to focus on today. Because I spend a lot of time like, oh, well, these 10 things could happen, and it could, it could go off in all these different directions, and really trying to be focused on and present today and right now.
Yeah.
But it's hard.
Yeah. But I know, Deborah, you're so active. I see what you're doing, the kayaking, the biking.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And I am not previously, I am still reading and writing and journaling.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Wow. That's terrific. Now, do you just going to, because I'm thinking what I take a lot of meds. Do you take meds, both of you?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I take 3,000 milligrams of Keppra and 400 milligrams of Vimpat a day.
Yeah.
For seizures. Any seizures with you?
No.
Good. Wow.
No, but so I have a blood clotting disorder, and the day that they told me you're going to have to take this blood thinner for the rest of your life and you need to have a medical alert bracelet. I was like,
Oh.
what? That
Yeah.
made it feel a lot more real for me, and not just a thing that, okay, I had this and moving on, like put that in the closet and walk away from it. It was like, okay, this is for real, and this is something that I need to, think about and deal with, because I'm going to be taking this little pill every single day, and I've got my little alert thing on my watch. Well, there we go.
Oh, okay.
On the camera. So I've got my little medic alert thing on my watch, and that was a tough day for me, coming to terms with that.
Yeah, yeah. But you both have, I'm sure, a team of doctors that you go to all the time.
Yeah.
How's your just, you're a neurologist? Because mine, every time I go in, like, he goes, "How you doing?" I said, "Well, I had a bloody nose." All he said is, "Aw." That doesn't help. So just thinking of that. But what are things that you're both doing, like right now? I mean, you're doing every day-to-day stuff that's your job, is Stroke Onward.
Yeah.
Keeps you busy.
Yes. The Flannery want to talk about the Stroke Onward reading guide.
Yes. Well, that's what. Yeah. That's what I was gonna say. Book. I read it. Book group discussion guides.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So one big project that we're working on right now to create more resources is, and we've launched part of it. So what we've just launched is book group discussion guides, and it's specifically for people that have aphasia. Although, lots of people, it'll help lots of people, but if being in the space where you're in a group, like a support group or a group, at your aphasia center, this is a great tool to read Debra's book or listen to Debra's book on the audiobook, and go chapter by chapter and really dig in deep to some of the topics and the themes that are covered in the book, as a way to help you process, and to go on your emotional journey, and then to really get to the rebuilding identity part of it. So we had some wonderful aphasia centers that we worked with to test out all of these materials at 7 different aphasia centers. And now we have those materials that are available for those book groups. And what we are in the process of developing right now are some other question lists. So if you wanted to read the book with your book club, if you had a book club and you want to read the book and go through questions, we're coming up with different formats of questions and different types of questions for different audiences. So we have a lot more coming soon on that, and trying to also put together lots of resources, because there's just, the World Wide Web is huge, and it's hard to know what's a good resource versus what's not as reliable of a resource. And so that's something that I've been working on with some volunteers too, is putting together a list of great resources for your emotional journey and rebuilding identity.
Wow. That's terrific. I keep going back to the emotional journey of this thing, because I think we all know what we're all talking about. Everybody that's had a stroke here in this chat. Yeah. So what are, like, last words that you would probably give, Debra, to anybody out there? Because I have my stroke support group. I go tonight too. I'm gonna bring the book.
Yeah.
Because it's funny, when I'm sure I go to the stroke support group, and they really have no resources. They don't know there are resources out there.
Yeah.
I'm completely. I shouldn't be shocked, because I hear this all the time. And Stroke Onward, I will bring stuff about that as well.
Yeah. I am the really slow progress and small wins. It's really it's really important to small wins. And I am 10 years out of, and I really small wins is the key.
Yeah, same. Yeah, you celebrate those small wins, and because some people out there, I see, they say you plateaued after a year, and that's it. There's no way. This is how you're going to be the rest of your life. I'm so against that. Someone tells me you plateaued, because I've seen some of the gains, even like your same thing, 10 years out, same thing.
Yeah, and so not. The recognizing the small, recognizing the emotional.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So back to emotional, because on Stroke Onward, when you read all the stuff on there, you spend a lot of time on the emotional part of this.
Yeah. Yeah. And no, I meaning and purpose and growth is really powerful.
Absolutely.
Meaning is really, good.
Yeah, absolutely. Powerful. I agree. And Flannery.
I think that's a beautiful way to end kind of our conversation, Deborah, is just to really celebrating those small wins. And the other thing is just, and I've been using this a lot recently, is normalizing that, like, what we're going through. This is all so normal. Like, there's nothing, there, exactly where you are right now, is, and in this emotional journey, this is a normal journey that we're all going through. And being willing to reach out. So if you are struggling with your mental health, reach out, let somebody know, so that whether that's a therapist, that's a trusted friend, that's your primary care doctor, reach out and ask for help, because there are people out there that care for you and want to help. So know that there's lots that you can do on your own, and there are times when asking someone else for help is also the right thing. And so that's why, we just want to normalize all of that, so that that you feel supported in this journey.
Yeah, it's okay to ask for help.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, any last words? Because I think I'm really happy that you be on.
I am really, really appreciate for friends and family.
Yeah, absolutely. No kidding. That's a big thing.
And Jerry, for creating this space for us, and to bring this community together. I just want to thank you and recognize that it's a lot of work. You make it look really easy, and we're glad that we get to be part of this community. So thank you for creating it for
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. And I appreciate you both agreed to be on here, and I just, my thing is just to bring like people on that have had strokes or cancer survivor, any kind of survivor, just to spread it out there. Because stroke, aphasia, so many people don't know, what is aphasia? So many people.
I agree.
Yeah, it's kind of gets frustrating when I hear people, like a nurse. I've heard this nurse in the hospital, what's aphasia? I don't know.
Yeah.
Right.
So I just kind of walked away. I can't explain. So, but anyway,
thank you.
Perfectly.
The audiobook is the audiobook and the book and Kindle.
Yes.
Yeah. All here.
That's it right there. That's the website right there on Apple. Yeah. get on Amazon and you can just put in identity theft book. That comes up.
Yeah.
Right there, you gotta scroll down, I think 1 or 2, and there it is. Everybody, yeah, thank you again, and you guys all, thank you for being here and piping in. Even you, Mike.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll talk in just one.